Hello and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel, and today's video obviously going to be a post-game review for Celtic's dramatic, exciting 3-3 draw after extra time winning 6-5 on penalties, and so we go through to the final against Rangers or Hearts at the end of May. Will be the final game of the season, and the final game, it's thought, of Joe Hart's career, although there are interesting stories and rumours that there is a small possibility that Joe Hart might be coming back to play for Celtic for one more year, although I think that's just rumours and stories, all part of the happiness and relief of us winning yesterday's semi-final. Before we crack on with the actual video, plus a wee bit of a chat regarding the next couple of weeks of Celtic, please do, if you're new to the channel, new to the David67, please do consider clicking that subscribe button. Getting very close to level 2 as a YouTube channel. Just a few more subscribers bringing us up to 500 would get us to level 2, which would be a big step up for me, which made me happy. If you like the video, please do click the like button. It does help with YouTube analytics, getting more people to see the channel, know about the channel, and as always, do pop your comments, thoughts, etc. into the comment section. Keep those pleasant, polite, instructive, informative, and we can have a nice wee debate amongst like-minded Celtic fans regarding yesterday's match and the next few weeks. So, I'm sure if you were a neutral supporter or an Aberdeen supporter, it was a very exciting game. There was a lot of action, a lot of good things for a neutral to watch, good things for Aberdeen fans to watch, good things for our big rivals fans to watch. But as a Celtic fan, it was rather nerve-wracking. I thought Celtic overall played pretty poorly, although it's testament to a good team that even when they're playing probably at a level of 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10 at the very best, they still came through. I think the players played with a lot of spirit. Not convinced that Brendan Rodgers made the best substitutions, the best tactical decisions. But we got it. We got there in the end. We got to the target, which was the Cup semi-final at the end of May. And as Joe Hart said in his post-match interview on Premier Sport, we got it done. And I suppose in the end, that's the main thing. They won the semi-final, and they're off to Hampden Park again at the end of May, hopefully, to secure the double and see Joe Hart off into retirement with a league and cup double, and presumably also likely see Matt O'Reilly leaving off for the glories of Serie A, the Bundesliga, or the English Premier League with his last game for Celtic. So, as I was saying, Celtic didn't play that well. The defence was really quite disorganised. Cameron Carter-Vickers seemed slow, seemed out of place, seemed to get pushed off the ball rather a lot by Bojan Miovski in the first half hour up to maybe half time. Admittedly, second half, it did look like Carter-Vickers got Miovski under control, and Miovski wasn't really much of a threat for the rest of the game. But for that first half hour, first half or so, Miovski was making a fool of Carter-Vickers and Liam Scales. Liam Scales, I thought, was absolutely rubbish. Completely at fault for goal 2, completely at fault for goal 3. Completely leaving players free at the back post to head the ball in. What Scales was doing for the third goal, it was pretty rubbish by Scales, really. Greg Taylor, I think, takes some of the fault for goal 3, some of the fault for goal 2 as well. However, Scales is 6'1", 6'2". Greg Taylor is 5'7". So a player of 5'7" being swamped by several 6-foot-plus Aberdeen strikers and central defenders, he's going to have a hard job of beating them out. The best he's probably going to do is block their run, slow them down in terms of getting into the air. Scales, however, completely lets people free at the back post both times, didn't time his jump, didn't get in the way of the Aberdeen player, and they had relatively easy chances to score in the last minute of the 90 and the last minute of the 120. Now, for the third goal, just as time elapsed before added time and extra time, we did throw on Mike Nawrocki for the last 3 minutes or so. It didn't look like actually the three central defenders quite knew who was doing what. As a result, Scales, Nawrocki and Carter Vickers were all in the middle, marking one person. Scales, far too late, realised that he was 10 metres out of place, tried to get to the back post, but he was hopelessly out of position. Joe Hart, I thought, had a pretty good game. I'd give him probably towards 7 out of 10. Ailsa Johnston probably going 6.5. Carter Vickers and Greg Taylor maybe 5, 5.5. Scales, I would give a generous 3 out of 10. Ailsa Johnston showed a lot of fight, commitment. I was happy to see him going around the players at the start of extra time when they were having their drinks and their orange segments. I was happy to see him going around geeing up all the players, encouraging all the players. Same again at the break between the first and second half of extra time. Was surprised to see Carter Vickers, who was the supposed captain at the time, rather quiet, rather in his own thoughts. Joe Hart doing a wee bit of geeing up the players. It really is the time where your captain on the pitch goes around telling the players one more effort, we've got these people, etc., etc. But Carter Vickers, as has often been the case, is a rather quiet captain. And I personally would quite like to see Ailsa Johnston being promoted to the official vice captain next season alongside Callum McGregor, although I suspect that Rodgers will stick with Carter Vickers moving up to be McGregor's number 2 for next season. Midfield, I think, also had a rather poor match. I was really very surprised to see the BBC gave man of the match to Matt O'Reilly. He did get a wee bit better as the game went on. He probably was at his best in extra time, but for the first 90 minutes, really wasn't creating very much. His passes were rather poor. He seemed just off the pace physically and mentally. Callum McGregor, I wonder whether he knew that he was only playing for 60 minutes. He didn't seem to really get into the game, didn't really take control. Hatate, a few nice touches here and there, but really wasn't driving through midfield into the attack. No real great passes except for once in the first half, which did create a half chance. Again, a wee half chance in the second half from Hatate's passes, but he was rather poor. I'd give them all maybe 5, 5.5, 6 at the very best. Tomoki Iwata came on later in the game. Thought he actually did a typical Tomoki Iwata thing, doing quite a lot of things that no one really particularly notices. However, he always seemed to be in the right place to receive a pass, to keep a move going. He always seemed to be in the right place to pick up a ball being kicked out of the defence by Aberdeen to restart things. I actually would give Tomoki Iwata the highest mark of all our midfielders. Paul Bernardo, all I think he really did, particularly in the game, was score the fourth of our 5 penalties. which is one thing at least in his favour. Nicholas Kuhn, I thought, had a pretty good game. Scored a nice goal for us, following in when Kyogo Furuhashi hassled and tackled the ball off the Aberdeen defender, went through on goal. Aberdeen defender and goalkeeper managed to scramble the ball away, but for one of the few times in the game our wide players got into the box, Nicholas Kuhn very calmly finished, put us level 1-1. Nicholas Kuhn had quite a lot of good touches coming in off his wing, a few nice crosses, a few nice passes. Did, as he often does, seem to fade away as the game went on. Yang, again, a few nice touches here and there. Really probably should have scored with that header early in the match. Didn't really have a particularly good game. Lewis Palmer came on later. I thought Lewis Palmer, given the fact he came on very, very late in the game, a few nice touches, bit of nice creativity, did hold up the ball wide well when we were trying to hold on to our 2-1 lead late in the game. His corners were rather poor. His final crosses and final passes not that great. One half chance to score, which he didn't take. Again, maybe 5.5 for him. James Forrest did a typical James Forrest sub-appearance. Very bright, very breezy. Looked for the last 30 minutes or so of regular time, probably Celtic's most dangerous player. Scored a goal a few minutes into his sub-appearance. Very clever curling shots from the edge of the box using the Aberdeen players as a screen in front of him to get the ball past them and into the corner of the goal past Roos. Forrest actually had 2 or 3 other really good chances, but probably he should have taken, but didn't. Kyogo Furuhashi did, as I say, create the first goal. Had a very good shot that was well saved by the Aberdeen goalkeeper, but wasn't really at his best. Ademida did do a good job holding the ball up, breaking behind the Aberdeen defence. Scuffed a couple of pretty good chances to score that would have put the game away, and of course scored a goal that was offside. Mike Navrocki really didn't have enough time on the pitch to really gain a mark. And what did strike me was when Rodgers did throw on an extra defender to shore up the lead late in extra time, Carter Vickers, Scales and Navrocki didn't really seem to know what they were supposed to do. Maybe some poor communication by Rodgers and Kennedy to Navrocki, maybe some kind of language barrier between the 3 central defenders, but they all seem to be in the same place at the same time. And same happened with Scales and Carter Vickers. 2 or 3 times they got in each other's way. Luckily, none of those mix-ups caused any goals, but the mix-up between the 3 certainly caused Aberdeen to get back into the game. Coming to the penalty shootout, I was very impressed with Ida and Palmer, both of whom, of course, have missed penalties for Celtic recently. Both of them look very, very confident. And what I also would say, having watched Lewis Palmer's footage from his time in Greece and in Honduras, the way he took the penalty yesterday was very confident and very much the way he took penalties before. After a couple of very successful penalties at the start of his Celtic career, he seemed to change his way of taking penalties. Not sure if that was his own choice, whether that was something being dictated to him by Rodgers and the coaching staff. I'm not sure. It was nice to see Palmer getting back to his confidence, feinting the goalkeeper one way and putting it the other way of taking penalties. Matarali, very confident penalty. Parlo Bernardo, nice confident penalty, although Roos did get close to saving it. Have to say I was a bit surprised when I saw Joe Hart stepping up to take the 5th penalty. I'm sure some of you may have seen the Man City goalkeeper Ederson taking an absolutely brilliant penalty in the Champions League penalty kick decider between Man City and Real Madrid. I think actually having goalkeepers taking penalties has a lot of good sense to it. Goalkeepers obviously take a lot of dead ball situations, by kicks, free kicks. They do have to have good instincts for saving penalties, and that can be very useful. And there have been quite a number of very accomplished goalkeepers who've been penalty takers. The most obvious in my memory is Chilavert, the Paraguayan goalkeeper, who scored an absolute ton of goals for his clubs in Paraguay and Argentina, and scored 8 international goals. And there have been many examples of goalkeepers who've been very successful penalty takers, and I didn't see any particular problem in Joe Hart taking a penalty. Maybe would have liked to have seen one of the midfielders coming forward instead. However, Hart took the penalty. It was actually a pretty good penalty. It hit the post and bounced out. On another day, it hits the post and bounced in. Then a lot of pressure on Alistair Johnston, which I think he coped with really, really well. Put us back ahead in the penalty shootout. Aberdeen's player then came up very confidently, put them back 5-5. Tomoki Iwata took, I thought, an absolutely brilliant penalty. Masses of pressure on him. And I think he took a very, very confident, unstoppable penalty. And then at last, Joe Hart's luck was in. A couple of times before, he'd chosen the right direction, and the ball had just squirmed underneath him because the shot was so well hit. However, third time lucky for Joe Hart, dived to his left, choosing correctly, and made a very safe stop. And happily, we're through to the final. Celtic obviously have a wee bit of a gap now to the Dundee match next Sunday, 3 o'clock, live on Sky. Did look like when the players were going around clapping the fans and returning the cheers, etc., that Adam Idah was limping. Hopefully it was just cramp, although he wasn't really on the pitch long enough to have cramp. And I do worry he's got a wee bit of a calf strain, which we'll likely find more out about on Monday or Tuesday. Didn't look like any of the other Celtics players were injured. It'd be a bit of a inconvenience for Idah to be out injured for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Didn't look like a serious injury, and as I said, it may well have just been a wee bit of cramp in his calf muscles. O has been kind of disappeared for the last few weeks. Hopefully that's just because Idah's been taking that place on the bench. I think O is actually a good player to come off the bench. He actually has a good ratio of goals per minute on the pitch. And he often comes on late in the game when the game's already won. And so hopefully if Idah is out for a week or two, O can come in and take his place. There is obviously the option of using Rocco Vata in that role. He scored an absolute ton of goals in the B team, scored a good number of goals recently for the Republic of Ireland under 21 side, and so Vata would also be an option for us through the middle as a sub for Furuhashi for the next 5 league games. As I said, looks like all the other Celtic players got through the match injury-free. Hopefully another week of training gets Callum McGregor back to his best, and hopefully another week of training gets Lewis Palmer back to his best and gets him at the top of Rodgers' list for the wide left position. An option would be starting James Forrest, although I still do believe he's best coming off the bench as he did on Saturday to give us 30 minutes at the end of a game. So, having a wee look at all the Celtic news sites, there's no other real stories cropping up, as is often the case after this sort of dramatic win. It would appear that the players had a good evening celebrating. Quite a few articles and social media postings suggesting that quite a few of the players had a good night out and a good night together. And as I said right at the start of the video, I thought Celtic showed an absolute ton of team spirit, fought for each other. The post-match interviews, Rodgers, the players, all very generous to each other, very generous about the way that Celtic fought it out, and also very generous to the way that the fans kept on cheering and supporting and screaming them on right to the very end, even when things looked rather dodgy. It does feel as if Celtic do need to really practice holding on for a victory late in the game. One of the other channels that I watch was stating that 45% of Celtic goals this season have come in from minute 81 onwards. So in essence, in the last 10 minutes of a game, plus any added time, we've conceded nearly half the goals for the whole season in that last 10 minutes plus added time. It does suggest that Rodgers really does need to work out how to defend the lead with a back four, and also how to organise if we do throw on an extra central defender like Mike Navrocki, or throw on an extra fullback such as Ralston, moving Johnston across, or moving Iwata into a back five, how to get them to defend better. We've given away stupid goals to Kilmarnock and Motherwell in added time. Of course, we gave a stupid goal away to Rangers in added time. If you think about adding those three late draws into being holding on to wins, that would be 6 points more, and we practically would have the title in our hands already. And that really is something I think Rodgers and Kennedy and the coaching staff really need to work on over the course of this week. Shoring up defence and seeing out a game late on. We have shown great ability this season at getting late goals. We also need to show equal ability at having a lead and keeping it in the last 10 minutes plus added time. So I think we'll finish things off at that point there. As I said at the start of the video, if you are new to the channel and you've enjoyed the video and enjoyed the other content, browsing through the other videos and content on the channel, please do click that subscribe button, like button also for new subscribers and for current established viewers and subscribers. Remember also there is the community section with a daily quiz question, and currently up to early May we're running a wee Player of the Year poll for the men's team and the women's team. Just a wee reminder for those who do like the women's team, they're playing live on BBC Alba this afternoon at 4:10, game from Celtic Park against Hearts. If we win that, we stay top of the league by at least 2 points, possibly more in the Women's League. And as always, feel free to pop your comments, pleasant, polite, constructive, informative, etc., into the comment section, and then we can have a wee chat from there. So, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, goodbye, and hail, hail!